It really is bizarre, the times that we're living in. I mean, without getting into the spiritual aspect of it, but I mean, just you're looking at a television set where the candidate with all of the momentum behind him is in court, and he can't talk about it. Yet when he does have a rally, he has over 100,000 people there. Yet he's only shooting up in the ranks. Seems to me that's a really good use of campaign funds. Just let everybody else pay for it.
Yeah, by the way, I did like the way that guy did his at the previous clip. And Gene, I'm going to start doing that. I just like that. Anyway, you know, one of the things that we have to look at in this whole thing, you know, have you ever ran into those people who they say, I don't know who to vote for? And it's like, what's wrong with you? You don't know who to vote for, Biden or Trump. And what you have to look at is there's something of divinity, something of God's intervention that's happened with President Trump. We must not forget he was the same candidate back in 2016 when he was up against 16 others. He wound up winning and becoming president. And look at what happened in 2020 and how they kept trying to bring the fake Russia collusion dossier. All the list continues to go on and on and on and on. But this man, President Trump, continues to come out of this. Why? Is it because he's got great luck? No, it's because God has raised this man up for such a time as this to represent we the people. And I think of that scripture, Pastor Gene, in the book of Exodus. It says that the more they afflicted Israel, the more the numbers grew. And this is exactly what is happening with President Trump and really the movement of we the people. It's just growing and growing and growing. And the more they afflict him, the more they try to do this. Remember what God said. It's going to fall like feathers, and they'll have no weight. And it's going to backfire on those, and those who indict, they themselves, God said, would be indicted. You watch what begins to happen as this plays out.
Jonathan Turley posts this. I'm out of the courtroom. It was quite a morning to have someone admit to stealing money from his client and then confirm it. He wants to run in Congress. It'd be a novel campaign. People usually wait to get into Congress before they commit major felonies. Rick,
yes, ma'am.
What do you think is going to happen with all of this? They've rested, the defense rested fairly quickly. Do you think they rested their case quickly because they felt like the prosecution has done such a horrible job, or are they gambling, or what would be the reasoning?
Yeah, I think part of it is they want Trump to be able to get out on the campaign trail. This can only, be to his advantage for so long, right? At some point, it's just too long. Of course, Gene, I'm kind of regretting what I said earlier. I made such a big deal out of the big rallies. I mean, the reality is 100,000 at his rallies is not that many more than the 20 people that are showing up for Biden's. It's not that big of a disparity, so we probably shouldn't make such a big deal out of it. It's night and day, of course. But I think they want him back out, and also that's what you do. If you think the prosecution didn't make a good case, sometimes you rest literally at the end of the prosecution's case. You don't even put on a case. You say, Your Honor, they didn't make their case. We don't even need to show a defense. So, probably a lot of that going into it. But I think most importantly, Trump is chomping at the bit. I mean, he is tired of sitting in that courtroom, and he wants to get out. So he's probably telling them, let's do our part quick and get out of here.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
By the way, Gene.
Yes.
Don't forget the other headline. You're probably going to get to this later, but it's not just this trial. It's all the other trials as well. I cannot believe they authorized deadly force for being able to go in at Mar-a-Lago. And y'all may have talked about this last night. I apologize. I didn't get to see it, but I mean, they're doing anything and everything they can to take this guy out, and it just continues to be despicable. And I think, as Hank said, it's all going to come back on them, and it's going to fall like feathers, no doubt.
Yeah, it hasn't worked. All right, let me show you what Alan Dershowitz had to say about the judge.
Yeah, well, and what ultimately brought the walls of Jericho down? Obviously, there was a moment they had to be silent, but it was their shout. It was the raising of their voice that released something against walls that looked impenetrable. Look, our nation right now, it looks like no good could come out of it. We've got to, just like at the walls of Jericho, continue to walk, continue to have action, movement, but keep our voices lifted. And you know what I love about about that lady that we just watched. She represents we the people that have had enough. And what the liberals don't realize is this has caused a movement of a righteous rebellion that is going to take our country back. But Pastor Gene, I really feel prompted, and I'll make it very quick. April 16th of 2023, I think we've shared this on Flashpoint. Listen what God said about all of this. He said, I will bring vindication as I've promised, and those who seek to indict will be indicted themselves. And as quickly as things arise, they'll fall apart, for they will see it as feathers. They will fall apart and have no weight. I will blow upon it, says the living God. And if that is not enough, they'll say, now we'll look to frame and to Satan. And God says, go ahead and frame. Frame your accusations, your indictments, but you've left me out of the picture. It shall be that those who seek to do this, it shall be unveiled, and they themselves will be exposed for the world to see. That's what you just saw with Michael Cohen. I believe that judge who's acting unjust, God factor is involved with President Trump, because he represents us who are praying and who are standing for the very things that invoke the blessing of God upon a country. So we've got to continue to raise our voice and continue to stand and pray, and we will see the salvation of our God for our country.
Amen. Of course,
the double standard is what is really disconcerting, and that's the thing that we've got to look at. And the fact that it was commissioned by the Biden administration, the FBI now stands for Federal Biden Investigators, it looks like. But if you notice something, and I don't know if the viewers noticed this, even last night when they were talking about it on the Morning Joe show, he was talking about all this stuff regarding Trump. I'm noticing something, and it's very obvious. And again, take the Trump glasses off. These people are scared. And the reason they're scared is because there's a driving force behind them. And I believe it's demonic. And I believe that the enemy is afraid because God is listening to the prayers of his people. And God is intervening, and he will continue to intervene as long as we pray and stay out of fear. And that's what they're afraid of. We're going to get our country back. And if you notice something that Comey said in that particular clip that you had previous, he said that things will begin to change. That's what they don't want. They don't want America to be made great again. So they're going to do everything they can to continue to formulate accusations. But what's disconcerting is that they were commissioned to use potential deadly force on something like this. So we need to pray, and I think we're going to get a reset. That's what God's been saying, and we're going to get reversals. And that's what we got to fight with our faith for. And the Lord said, this represents the swing states that are going to begin to start swinging and shifting towards the right. And God's going to right things in our nation, set it in order. But also, I think it's the way that America is going to begin to vote. And if you look at what happened in some of the primaries, things started shifting in the swing states. So Ohio is a very, very strategic state. And it's no coincidence that it's right before. And I believe we need to get there. We also need to get to Omaha in September for the Flashpoint event that we're going to have, because we're going to shift our nation. And by the way, I did hear a prophetic word, and I believe it might be Ohio that I am to deliver a very powerful word. So I'm very, very excited.
Oh, it's good. I'm looking forward to that. 2024 Flashpoint.live. It's a free event, if I didn't mention that. It doesn't cost you anything. Just go ahead, let us know. Make your reservation. Let us know you're coming. Helps us plan. Make sure we have enough seats for everybody.
But the borders are open. It doesn't make sense what the liberals and the rhinos have done to our country. But I will say this. I believe that there are reversals that are coming, and I believe that our economy is going to be made great again. But in the meantime, we might have to do what Luke is doing. We might have to raise our own chickens, our own beef, and it's cheaper than going to the fast food. We grow them. Right? I mean, makes sense, right?
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Pastor Gene, I'm trying to make a joke, and it's not going over well. So there you go.
Well, I agreed with you.
Grow your own food, okay? Whatever. There you go.
Makes sense. Makes sense?
Makes sense. There you go.
Makes sense.
Okay.
All right, let me show you. Let me move on. Everybody knows how the economy is doing. I was surprised things had gone up that much. Now, it's pretty bad when a Happy Meal costs what a steak used to cost. All right, let's go to this about the different Joe Biden. Watch.
And the department has to investigate discrimination aggressively. That's my special envoy to monitor cabinet anti-Semitism, Deborah. You all, where is Deborah here? My administration is working around the clock to free the remaining hostages, just as we have freed hostages already. And here is today is Hirsch Goldberg Poland, and it's still he is not here with us, but he's still being held by Hamas.
All right, so now compare those comments to these.
You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-cop. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-democracy. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-American. Donald Trump lacked the courage to act. The brave women and men in blue all across this nation should never forget that.
Who is that, Luke?
It's a guy who has two final brain cells tripping over one another to try to formulate a sentence. But it's unfortunate, right? That's the leader of the free world. That is our president of the United States right now. And I'll just say this, too. As a video editor, as somebody who does a ton of video for a lot of candidates, when we're doing direct-to-camera filming, the amount of cuts that you will have in a video is generally the number of mistakes that the principal makes while they're talking to the camera. So when you're seeing Joe Biden release these videos where he might string a paragraph together, the cuts go in and out and in and out. And it's because they're giving him 4 and 5 words at a time. And that is really discouraging, not just to Americans who voted for him, but for all Americans, because this is the guy who's in charge of our military. So when the rest of the world is looking at Joe Biden, they are not seeing strength. They are not seeing the type of America First strength that we had under Donald Trump, where the rest of the world feared him, in part because they had no clue what he might do to them if they crossed the United States of America. Under Joe Biden, when they see that weak leadership and they recognize that he is not in charge, but rather there's probably some kitchen cabinet oligarchy in his Oval Office dictating exactly what's supposed to happen across the world, they sense weakness, and then they act on that. And so you have Russia pouring into Ukraine. You have Hamas pouring into Israel. You have these disruptions across the world because America is not filling that vacuum that was on the rest of the world stage. And this is consequential not just on the rest of the world, but also here domestically, because the same people who are wanting the United States wiped off the face of the map are the ones who were invading Israel, and they counted that as a success in October. And so the terrorists who want to disrupt the United States and attack the United States are going to take advantages of the weakness that the Biden administration has presented them, like coming through our southern border, like signaling we're going to welcome in refugees from all across the world instead of honoring the legal immigration system that we have set up and trying to fix that so that it's fair for all people who are trying to come in. That is weakness on the world stage, and unfortunately it is a manifestation of the Biden presidency, incompetence and the inability to formulate a sentence.
All right, well, and this America has a right to know what's going on here. Let me show you the comparison. What's up with his eyes? As you were talking about the editing in that clip, he didn't blink one time. Here he is, in one clip, and 24 hours later, he's standing there with his eyes, plastered open. Did not blink one time in the whole video. When you see this, Rick, I'm not picking on Joe Biden. I'm really not. And this has nothing to do with his age, because I don't think age has anything to do with it, but it does have something to do with his cognitive ability. And as Americans and as the leader of the free world, we do have a right to stand up and say, excuse me, I think there's a problem here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say it does have something to do with his age, and not every 80-year-old is as incompetent and obviously aging like he is. Let's just be blunt about it. This happens to most people when they're 80, and then there are others. I got a board member at Patriot Academy that's 81, and he's like a 50-year-old. Donald Trump is going to be 80 in 2 more years, and he's like a 50-year-old. So age can be the major factor. But, Gene, listen, I used to laugh at people that would think like this, but I have a hard time believing that's even the same guy. I don't know if he's maybe it's not the same guy because he's on drugs. They've got him really drugged up and tanked full of something to get him out there to where he can give a speech. or it's literally someone else. I mean, I'm at this point where I know the technology's there to make that possible, and I wonder, these people are willing to kill a fellow Americans. They're willing to do things that we used to think our government would not do. They're willing to do what they've done to the J6 defendants. They're willing. I'm just at this point where I'll just about believe anything is possible, and that looks like two different people to me. I don't know if it is or not. It's certainly two different psyches based on drug influence, if it is the same person. But I just keep coming back to it, man. Can't be the nominee after August. They're going to figure that out, and this debate in June is the big test. And we'll see if they can drug him up enough to get through the debate with Donald Trump.
It's going to be interesting for sure. What do you think, Pastor Hank?
Well, you know, something shaped my discernment when I was a young kid. Sesame Street. And that's before it went woke and weird. And they used to have this song, Pastor Gene, you're old, just like Rick Green is. Which one of these are not like the other? You got a guy, America's 30 years old, sluggers, and then you got a guy. Okay, I'm going to tell you, the one with the starry eye, like sometimes Rick when he first comes on, it's because it's AI. It's computer generated. And I don't just question, this is an act, this is a game. It's the people behind all of this that I think we also have to call into question. And my prayer is that this masquerade is going to stop, and this masquerade is going to be exposed, and God is going to bring to justice this that they're trying to do to deceive the American people. And I agree with Rick. I've seen 3 or 4 different Biden lookalikes walking around, but it goes back, and they mocked me in the secular media. I had a dream or an experience where I saw the face of Biden change 2 to 3 times, and I went on record and said it. And now people can't figure out who this guy is. And I really believe that there's a game being played. And I want truth, I want justice, and I want we the people to be able to have